On today's episode of Time About the Movies, we're going back to the 80s, quite literally, because we are remaking two classic movies on the same weekend. We've got Footloose, and then we've also got The Thing, the remake of John Carpenter's remake of the original classic. And then we have, surprisingly, the best movie of the whole weekend, and that is The Big Year, with Jack Black, Owen Wilson, and Steve Martin among the cast, directed by the guy who gave us The Devil Wears Prada and Marley and Me. And we have Pedro Almodovar's latest film, The Skin I Live In, starring Antonio Banderas. So, 4 movies to take a look at on this October 14th, 2011. Welcome to Time About the Movies.
You think I'm small town, huh?
I think Beaumont is a small town.
You try living here your whole life.
What do people do here? Not much we can do. Seems like everything's illegal.
Got that music cranked pretty loud.
Gonna throw me in jail? I don't want you to see that boy again.
What are you gonna do? Pass another law?
This is our time to play our music way too loud, to make mistakes, to live.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 4 films released on October 14th, 2011. And we start off with the biggest of the new releases, and that is Footloose, the remake of the 1984 Kevin Bacon classic that some might say isn't a classic, but, I mean, come on, man. It's got the music of Kenny Loggins, for God's sakes. Of course it was a classic. But being a teenager is tough, and no one knows that better than Ren McCormick, now played by Kenny Wormald, who's a city kid who has a strong feeling for music. Ren's life changes when he moves to a small town where rock and roll and dancing are criminal activities, and when Ren falls in love with the Reverend's daughter, Ariel Moore, played by Julianne Hough, the Reverend played by Dennis Quaid, the music pauses and Ren needs to shape up and make dancing a legal activity once again. And I think, like most people, when they announced this, I was like everybody else, dreading the remake of an 80s classic, with even as good of a director as Craig Brewer can be. I mean, this is the guy that did Hustle and Flow and Black Snake Moan. The Thing at first felt like being dead on arrival, and for the longest time, I did avoid it for many years. I didn't watch it until well after the fact. I think the only reason I watched it was because I got it on a double feature DVD set with the original Footloose, and I gotta be honest, it wasn't half bad. I won't say it's great, but it actually is kind of a good movie. It definitely takes itself a little too seriously at times compared to the original movie. I mean, it's basically for a movie that's about a town that bans dancing. They didn't need to bring in this Friday Night Lights caliber drama to this extreme level. But in a way, it does kind of work to the film's advantage overall to give it kind of its own distinctive look to it. The cast overall I thought worked pretty well. Kenny Wormald's actually pretty good as Ren. Actually kind of surprised he didn't go on to do anything too much bigger after this. Julianne Hough actually is pretty good playing the love interest in here. They have some nice chemistry together. Dennis Quaid's really good as the Reverend. You get an early Miles Teller performance out of this, and just before he made it big. The following year he'd be in both Project X and Pitch Perfect. Overall, for what this could have been, it could have been a whole lot worse, but because you have a good director in Craig Brewer who knows what he's doing, and he knows not to go too far with it overall, he gives you a serviceable remake that actually is a hell of a lot better than you could have ever imagined. Like, it's a tolerable remake. Nothing will ever top the original film by any means. The original is just a silly, good fun movie with a great soundtrack that never gets old, no matter how hard you try. But the remake is just an acceptable substitute for the original that should definitely be given more of a re-examination. I mean, like I said, it took me a few years to finally get to this one, and when I did, I'm glad I actually got to see the enjoyment factor out of it. I think there is a lot to admire about it. It's pretty good. It won't make you feel like it's better than the original Footloose, but it's good for what it is, and I do recommend checking it out. Footloose 2011, it's really good. Unlike the other remake that came out this weekend, which was the big surprise that everyone thought, this couldn't go wrong at all. It's going to be a prequel, but it's also kind of a remake of the original of John Carpenter's The Thing that takes place before the events of The Thing. How could it possibly go wrong? Well, let's examine this.
It's not possible. It's not dead.
It attacks its prey, and then hides inside it. Could be any of us.
Yeah, we get it. It's a prequel to the John Carpenter movie. That doesn't mean you have to do the exact same movie as the original, as the John Carpenter movie, because that's the biggest problem with the movie in general that we're going to get into here. This is, as I said, a direct prequel to the 1982 film of the same name by John Carpenter, and of course, it was originally based off of a 1953 movie of the same name. It tells the story of a team of scientists at a Norwegian Antarctic research station who discovers a parasitic alien buried deep in the ice, realizing too late that it is still alive. And of course, if you've seen the original thing, you can essentially see where this goes from here. So you have Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Joel Edgerton, Eric Christian Olsen among the cast in here. Written by Eric Heiserer, who would later go on to write Arrival, which went on to get nominated for an Oscar for Best Screenplay. So this isn't a badly put together movie. The biggest problem is that the studio got involved. I mean, that's literally what happened. They filmed the movie, and the studio basically came in and said, no, we're going to reshoot this and give it, because test screenings didn't really approve of what we think of this movie's potential overall. And so, yeah, they reshot the movie, they shot a brand new ending for it, and yeah, what did you think was going to happen with that? So there you go. That's the thing that happened with this movie. Studio came in, completely ruined any hope for the film. The film came out, didn't do very well, bombed at the box office, was not a big critical success, and the rest is infamous history. And, I mean, the biggest problem with the movie in general is that it's trying way too hard to be like the original The Thing, except also trying to modernize it for a new generation. Just like, the biggest problem, and another big problem is the CG. What was the great thing about the 82 The Thing? How amazing the practical effects are. I mean, those effects still hold up after over 40 years. And again, here we have another movie, just like every time they try to remake The Wolfman. I'm sorry, you're never going to top what you did in the 80s, because I'm sorry, An American Werewolf in London will always have the greatest wolf transformation sequences ever. And the original The Thing will still have the best practical effects that you'll see in a movie like that. Like, you cannot top what those movies did, and this movie is trying way too hard to do that, while also being way too similar to the original movie. And that's the biggest thing. That's another big problem with it. It's just like, it does nothing different compared to the original The Thing, and it really feels like it's just copying way too hard and trying to be so much like the original John Carpenter version, when it is nowhere near that version at all. And everyone's trying. The cast is trying their best. The atmosphere is there, but the scares aren't there. I mean, there's literally nothing about this movie that is worth it. And when it's all said and done, you're just kind of like, wow, that was a major waste of time on everyone's part. This thing had a high build-up leading up to it beforehand, and yet all of a sudden when the movie comes out and you realize that they have done absolutely nothing different compared to the original movie. Except just remade the original movie again. Like, it's supposed to be a prequel. It literally feels like a remake of the original. They do nothing different except let's just set it somewhere else and then have it be the setup for the original film. And again, it makes no sense whatsoever. And it just falls apart pretty quickly. And it's a major, major misfire on so many levels. What a disastrous movie this was. This was not a good film at all. This was a really bad film. Not for the actors' lack of trying. I mean, the actors are doing the best they can. The director's trying to do the best they can, but the studio came in and just destroyed it all, made them reshoot things that were so unnecessary, and the end result is a clustered mess of a movie. And sadly, we've never been able to see the original director's cut of this movie. It's never been released out there. And, you know, this thing has been re-released on Blu-ray several times in the past, and you would think somebody out there would say, hey, we're putting this out again for people to buy. Why don't we put the version that we originally did out there so people can see it? No. That would be too much for us at Universal. I mean, we're having the greatest year of our lives when you're still stuck in one of those box office doldrums. You know, this is still very much 2 years into a terrible stretch of films for Universal where they've had massive bombs. And this is another one of those big bombs that they had. And this, yeah, it's just a bad movie. It's a really bad film, a major, major disappointment. I think most people were very disappointed with the end result of it, like I was. I love the original The Thing by John Carpenter, and this just pales in comparison to that film. Just such a waste of time, such a waste of potential overall. So if I was to tell you that the best movie to come out this weekend would be a movie about Owen Wilson, Jack Black, and Steve Martin as bird watchers, you would think I'd be crazy, but believe it or not, the big year is kind of that.
major fallout in a few hours. Nuclear fallout? Bird fallout.
Have you ever wondered what killed your marriage to Steph in '03?
First of all, I was married to Bridget in '03. January 1st, I'm out of here.
You realize the phase after retirement looks a little bit like this?
You quit school, you quit work.
Yeah? Great talking to you. I just want to do something big, you know?
We need a little adventure.
You're doing a big year.
The year to do all the things we never could.
Now,
They could be exhausted by now.
Race to the bottom?
they're turning their quest
They're men, dear. They ever stop competing, they die.
into the ultimate competition.
This is my year. I'm going to make my mark.
Can't miss the flight. There's not another one for a week.
Sucks for him.
Cooking?
Yeah.
From the director of The Devil Wears Prada and Marley and Me,
One of us has to beat this SOB.
when it comes to comedy,
Did you just do a victory dance?
No. Maybe. Yes, I did.
go big or go home.
You bought me drinks and got what you wanted. Really? You don't want to know.
Steve Martin, Jack Black, Owen Wilson.
Most people wake up one day and realize they didn't do everything they wanted to do.
Am I nuts, Ida?
Are you asking me as a therapist or as a wife?
Which one is cheaper?
This is incredible, isn't it? Unless there's a freak blizzard. I shouldn't have said there's going to be a freak blizzard. I jinxed it.
The big year.
Then again, that trailer does it no favors. I mean, it doesn't even tell you what they're even going out to look for. But it's a movie about bird watching. And again, bird watching does not sound that interesting, but this movie somehow makes it that and then some. You have a group of friends played by Steve Martin, Jack Black, and Owen Wilson who are obsessed with birding, setting on a big year, which is a quest to outdo each other by finding the most species of birds in North America over the span of 1 year. Their competition is an allegory for the challenges faced in their lives, and you also have an all-star cast in this movie that not only includes them, but Rashida Jones, Angelica Houston, Jim Parsons, Joel McHale, Rosamund Pike, Jo Beth Williams, Brian Dennehy, Diane Wiest, Anthony Anderson, Tim Blake Nelson, Kevin Pollak, Corbin Burnson. So a lot of big people in this movie about bird watching. Again, sounds incredibly boring and unenjoyable, and that's what I thought too until you look at that cast, and there is a great cast on board here, and you're hoping the movie works, and it actually does for the most part. It's actually a very surprisingly good film. I mean, I like it because there are a lot of good entertaining comedy moments and a cast that really does work very well, and the allegories that go with them, like, you know, you can tell that what everybody is going through. Like Owen Wilson, like he's in this relationship, and you hear a little bit in the trailer there, like bird watching essentially killed his first marriage. Jack Black is somebody who's trying to connect with his father, Brian Dennehy. Steve Martin is this big business guy who's trying to retire, and he decides, hey, I need one more thing before I go on out, so I'm going to do this bird watching thing. They all have a connection and all have a purpose for being there. Like, it doesn't get, granted, it does get kind of boring at parts, but never enough to say it's the complete waste of time. Like, I think most people went into it being, everybody here does a good job here. Everybody's not acting like what they usually do here. You expect Jack Black and Owen Wilson to be the typical Jack Black, Owen Wilson slapstick comedy role, or Owen Wilson to be like the douchebag, or Steve Martin to just be Inspector Clouseau again, but you don't get any of that whatsoever. And that is a refreshing relief to see them actually trying and putting their efforts into it. Like, the supporting cast overall I thought was really good. Some of them I thought were used a little too little. I would have liked to see more of Jim Parsons. Like, he's barely in the movie, but anytime he's in there, he's perfectly fine. I also like the friendship between Black and Martin. I do feel like this was some of their best work they had done in a long time. Some comedy bits that did work, but most of the time, it's not even really a comedy per se. There isn't really a point where I chuckled, but at the same time, there's nothing about it that I found boring. Like, the scenery shots in here are really what makes it worth it, because you get some nice winter shots in here. I mean, if there's anything I could say that's the worst thing about the movie, you can kind of predict a lot of what's going to happen. Like with Owen Wilson's character, you could tell that his wife is on her last nerves, and she's going to leave him because of his obsession with bird watching, and just trying to get one more big year. And even though she told him, hey, this is how your last marriage ended, he's just like, I don't give a fuck. Like he doesn't say it like that, but he just feels like he has to do it. Like, if that's the one flaw of the movie I could say. But other than that, though, this is a movie that I think really is a lot better than the trailers let on. That trailer doesn't really sell the movie the right way. It feels like they're trying to sell it more like a mix between, Without a Paddle or a typical, underdog versus the big popular guy type of movie. But it's not that at all. And the biggest shocker of all, it has a PG rating to it, which we've had some really bad PG-rated movies in the last couple of years, with Bride Wars, New in Town, Leap Year, these movies that are not family movies, but they're more of but these are movies that you could easily see be PG-13. I think the last one we got that was good at this point was Just Right, and that was a great movie overall. This movie works a hell of a lot better than I think a lot of people were letting it on to be. Like, the plot seems like it doesn't have a lot there to work with, but it almost works. I did kind of wish there was a little bit more comedy that kind of worked, but the cast, the visual look of the movie, the comedy bits that they do throw in there, I think work more than well enough to recommend this movie. It's a movie that did not get the proper respect it did at the box office, not surprisingly because of the bad marketing, but it's still a really good movie, and one that definitely deserves to be checked out. Seek out The Big Year if you can find it. It's definitely a hell of a lot better than you would expect it to be. Like, I put this in the same category of something like The Weatherman or The Ice Harvest or Last Holiday, movies that weren't big box office hits and were largely forgotten almost as soon as they came out, but they're actually a lot better than you would believe that. I mean, it really is a much better movie than I think people let on. It's one, like I said, I highly recommend checking it out, The Big Year. Can't recommend it enough. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that's Pedro Almodovar's latest film, The Skin I Live In.
¡Párate! Y tírame la llave de la puerta al feo y te rajo. Si sigues bajando me corto el cuello y se te acaba el juguete.
No eres capaz.
Antonio Banderas is just like, bitch, do you know who I am? I am Zorro. I can easily chop your ass off that quickly. I mean, funny thing is that when Pedro Almodovar made this movie a few days after shooting, he basically told Antonio Banderas to lighten up a little bit, because apparently he was taking this to like a way too more of a psycho that they wanted, and they wanted him to be more restrained character. So take that for what you will with this movie. But Antonio Banderas plays a man that, in honor of his late wife who died, he plays a scientist who's trying to synthesize the perfect skin which could withstand burns, cuts, or any kind of damage. As he gets closer to perfecting the skin of his flawless patient, the scientific community starts growing skeptical, and his past is revealed to show that how his patients are closely linked to tragic events he would like to forget. So it is overall a very interesting character study. I mean, it's a movie that really does take a lot of chances overall. It's a movie that I think definitely lives up to Pedro Almodovar's different styles and does something a little bit more unique and different than what we're used to seeing him with, kind of mixing him a little bit more with something like a Hitchcockian type of psychological thriller. And the woman that plays opposite him in this, Elena Ayana, who you later see in Wonder Woman, I thought she was pretty good in here. I thought she did a pretty good job of handling the role in here. It is a movie that takes a lot of chances, and I think it does work very well. It's a movie that is very unique and different compared to Almodovar's more recent works. And it is a movie that does keep you on the edge of your seat, wondering, how is this going to go? And, it's a movie that's very interesting in the way that Almodovar describes it. He describes it as a horror story without screams or frights, and you can definitely see that in this movie. It's definitely in there, and Banderas just overall gives a really solid performance, and I'm actually kind of surprised didn't nab him an Academy Award nomination, because he is that good in this film. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. I think it's definitely one of Almodovar's better movies. It's one that's definitely worth checking out, in my opinion. The Skin I Live In. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll take a look at the weekend of October 21st, including a new Paranormal Activity movie, Paranormal Activity 3. Paul W.S. Anderson is back, and after years of dismantling the Resident Evil franchise, he and his wife, Mila Jovovich, are destroying a classic story from your childhood, Alexander Dumas' The Three Musketeers. We also have the return of Rowan Atkinson as Johnny English in Johnny English Reborn. In addition, we also have Elizabeth Olsen starring in one of her big breakout roles, Martha C. May Marlene. And we also have, where is it? Here it is, the last one we have here, the documentary Being Elmo, A Puppeteer's Journey, about the life of Kevin Clash. This was, of course, years before he became part of the Me Too movement. But we'll talk about this documentary coming up on the next episode, along with the other movies I've talked about here. 5 films to take a look at next time around, and we'll do that tomorrow on the show. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the last episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.